Alright guys, my name is Owen, also known as Clown, and I'm joined here by my beautiful wife. I'm going to say that of my soon-to-be wife, hopefully. Ruby, also known as Cole. But
Hi.
but today I suggested this last night. Scary stories to tell in the dark. I used to read them religiously. Not on the web, although my grandparents used to have books of them, and I used to sit there and read them, and they were like information books as well, like basically like it's a true story but it's not, if you know what I mean.
That's saying I think some of these are based on books, which I don't know if they're true stories or not, but they're based on books.
It's based around, there's one of them called the Spider in My Head or something. It's a lot later on, and basically the spider in the head is where a woman went on holiday somewhere in Africa, and a spider crawled into her ear and it laid its eggs inside her ear, so she went for an operation to get it done, and basically like they found like baby spiders crawling all over her brain. She had the operation. Same with a lass who got a fly stuck in her eye, and that went into her brain and stuff. I remember that one, but they weren't in the scary stories to tell in the dark. It was a book series, and actually, funny enough, at Calder High School, you weren't allowed to take them out. You had to sit and read them in like the library. You weren't allowed to use them in what do you call it, like lessons. Oh.
I'm just going to check if this is fucking. I don't know
this. But yeah, it was a book series. It was a great series actually, and believe it or not, I was like 10 or 11, and I used to sit during the night and I read the same stories over and over again. But like, yeah, you're being, yeah, basically I would read them on the night and then shit myself up and stuff like that. Yeah, we're just getting a few things sorted. So the first story I'm gonna talk about is The Thing. It's about two boys, two young boys who see something horrible in a cornfield. It is based on a Nova Scotian folktale in the book Blue Nose Ghost. A version of this appeared in the book Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. There is a picture that we've got of the thing. There is. Fucking hell, oh, it's hard me when I wake up.
True.
So
Just trying to get it to set the screen.
So I don't know if I'm gonna jump straight into it, or if you want me to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. There were two young boys named Trevor and Will. They spent most of their summer vacation hanging around the town looking for things to do. One hot August night, the boys were sitting on a fence by the main road. There was a cornfield just across the road. Suddenly, Trevor spotted something in the field. In the darkness, it was difficult to make out, but he thought it looked like some kind of weird animal. He nudged his friend and pointed in the direction of the strange-looking figure. Will said he could see it too. He wasn't sure, but the mysterious thing seemed vaguely human. The next thing they knew, the thing was gone. The boys their necks and scanned the field with their eyes. Out of the blackness came the thing. It slowly walked over to the edge of the field before disappearing again. Trevor and Will looked at each other, puzzled. "What was that?" asked Will. "I have no idea," replied Trevor. No sooner had he said that than Trevor felt a clammy hand on his shoulder. He turned around and found himself staring directly into the hideous face of the thing. He let out a yell of terror and surprise. The rotting skin of the thing's face was coming off in places, revealing the bone underneath for a moment. It just stared silently at Trevor with its dark sunken eyes. Then it suddenly grabbed hold of his arm. Trevor felt its fingernails dig into his flesh as he wriggled out of its grasp. The two boys leapt off the fence and ran down the road, screaming in horror. They didn't stop running until they reached their homes. They tried to tell their parents and friends about the thing they had just seen that night, but nobody believed them. When Trevor woke up the next morning, the scratches on his arm were still there. After a few days, they got worse and worse. Trevor got sick and his parents took him to see a doctor. After examining his arm, the doctor told the boy it was infected and gave him some pills to take. Fucking pills? Yeah, I'll just pop some pills, mate, and get fucking high. Unfortunately, Trevor's condition got worse and worse. The infection spread to his entire arm, and it wasn't long before his flesh was rotting and falling off. He was taken to the hospital, but no matter what the doctors did, no treatment seemed to work. The infection spread throughout his whole body. Trevor was confined to a bed and started to waste away. It seemed like he was beyond help, and as days went by, he steadily grew worse and worse. His anguished parents could only sit at his bedside and cry as they watched their beloved son slowly rotting away before their eyes. On that day that Trevor finally passed away, Will came to the hospital to visit them. When the boy walked into the hospital room and saw Trevor lying in bed, he was horrified. His friend looked exactly like the thing. That wasn't really scary, was it? But
not really, but to be quite fair, if you're in that situation, I'd fucking shit myself. But to be quite fair, if I was in that situation and I saw that shit in a cornfield, my ass is gone.
But it kind of reminds me of the film Jeepers Creepers, though. Because, like, Jeepers Creepers is, like, a creature that always hangs around the cornfield. But also he has, like, a van and stuff. So maybe they got the inspiration from this story.
That's just a pedo.
Well, yeah, he is a pedo. He got found out as being a pedo. But I'm saying, maybe they, like, what do you call it? Like, got the inspiration from this story to make Jeepers Creepers.
Maybe. Anyway, the next one, if I can get that picture out of the way, is the red spot. Hold on, let me get the picture. The red spot is a short, scary story about a young girl who wakes up one morning with a strange blemish on her face. It is based on an urban legend called the spider bite, or spider in the cheek. A version of this story appears in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Swartz.
Squats.
One night, a young girl was sleeping in her bed with a spider crawling across her face. It stopped for a few seconds, or few minutes, on her left cheek. Then it went on its way. When she woke up the next morning, looked in the mirror, she noticed a red spot on her cheek. "What's this?" she asked her mother. "It looks like a spider bite," her mother replied. "It will go away, just don't scratch it." Soon the small red spot grew into a big red boil. "Look at it now," the girl said. "It's getting bigger." "That sometimes happens," her mother said. "It's coming to a head." In a few days the red spot was even larger. "Look at it now," the girl said. It hurts so much and it makes me look so ugly. Well, we'll have a doctor look at it, her mother said. Maybe it's an infection. But the doctor couldn't see the girl until the next day. That night she decided to take a nice relaxing bath. As she lay soaking in the warm water, the boil suddenly burst. Out poured a swarm of tiny spiders from the egg inside their mother had laid in her cheek. So the bitch got infected by a spider and her cheek burst.
That's basically the story I was on about. Like, but there's so many versions of it where it's like a true story, and they had it in the newspaper of that lady getting a spider in her brain. You know, a woman that actually got a fly.
It's fucking normal.
Like inside of like inside her brain, like it flew and laid eggs inside the brain. But
just give me a minute, I'm just going to pull up another photo of the next two we're doing. I just deleted the wrong fucking photo. God damn it. Right, give me a minute. Black screen, blah blah blah.
They won't be able to see that one.
No, because I just deleted the picture.
Right, well,
give me a minute till I just quickly pull up these pictures whilst he makes a brew. Right, pull up images again. Just give me a little second. So the next two are the Scarecrow. I think it's called Scarecrow. Whoops. And the Big Toe.
yeah, we're not really much drinkers. Like, we did have a drink last night. A bit of
Alcoholic
Smirnoff.
beverage.
A Smirnoff
But
Ice.
we're both of age, so shut up. Karens. Where the fuck the hell picture go? Was that the bearing up?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bear in a minute. My niece is up. BRB.
So, yeah, these are kind of stories that we'll be doing, like, each week. Yeah, pretty much we'll do them each week. And that's pretty much it. That's all we need to do.
Oh bloody hell, Kyla.
So this next one's called the Scarecrow.
I thought it was called Harold.
It is, but
The Scarecrow called Harold. Hold on, let me get up the picture.
it is actually called Scarecrow. The story. This is one of the stories that I had in one of the books my grandparents had at their house. It's basically about a farmer who builds like the scarecrow to like scare off the crows, but it's also like supposed to be he tries to make it the scariest scarecrow to take care of his farm. Basically, that's all it is. All bearings up. Not gonna say her name.
Well, I already did, so don't really know. Won't say her full name, but
Alright. There was an old farmer in Arizona who owned the best farm in the area. Everybody said his crops were the best, and people came from all over to buy their goods from him. Whenever people asked him how he was able to grow such good quality crops, the old farmer would say it's all down to his scarecrow. That old scarecrow is the one I have to thank, said the farmer. He makes sure no crows or critters or pests come near my crops. The old farmer had built the scarecrow himself, and it was the fearsome sight. He spent months working on it to make it as scary as possible. He knew how important it was to keep pests away from his crop, so he gave it an enormous straw arms that stretched out about 6 feet and big long legs that made it as tall as a tree. But the scariest thing about the scarecrow was its head. The farmer carved it himself out of a huge pumpkin. He spent countless days and nights perfecting his design until it was perfect. The scarecrow's face and head was so grotesque and ugly that even he was sometimes scared to look at it. But it was very effective, scaring away every rodent and bird that ventured near. The neighbouring farm was owned by 2 young men who were brothers named Josh and Harold. That's where Harold comes from. They were lazy and never did much work around the farm, which resulted in their crops being bad. They were jealous of the old farmer and his success, and were plotting against him. If they could drive him out of the business, they could take over his farm and make more money. So one night, the brothers decided to sneak onto the old farmer's land. They stole his prized scarecrow and brought it back to their own house, where they stuffed it into an old closet so nobody would find it. The next day, the farmer woke up to find his hideous scarecrow missing and all his crops being eaten by rats and crows. He fell to his knees and cried, knowing that his farm would soon be out of business. Meanwhile, the brothers Josh and Harold were watching from their own property and couldn't help laughing out loud when they saw the old man's tears of grief. Hearing the laughter, the old farmer came over and asked them if they knew what happened to his scarecrow. The brothers looked him right in the eye and said they had no idea where his precious scarecrow might be. But I'll go out of business and have to sell my farm if I can't find my scarecrow, said the farmer. Josh just laughed in his face, saying, "That's just your tough luck, isn't it?" "Sucks to be you," giggled Harold. The old farmer walked slowly back to his house, his head hanging down in defeat and depression. That night, as Josh and Harold had trouble sleeping, not because they felt any remorse, but because they couldn't get the image of the scarecrow's horrible, twisted face out of their minds. They decided they would never be able to sleep as long as that ugly pumpkin head was in their house. So they got up and dragged the scarecrow out of their closet. Harold took a baseball bat and smashed the scarecrow's head to pieces until all that was left was little bits of pumpkin straw around the floor. The brothers swept up the pumpkin head pieces and threw them in the trash. Then they went back to bed and were soon fast asleep, having put all thoughts of discussing the scarecrow out of their heads. Sometime later, after midnight, Josh and Harold were awoken by the sounds of scratching and clawing at their bedroom door. "Did you forget to put the dog out?" asked Harold sleepily. We don't have a dog," stammered Josh. Suddenly the bedroom door burst open and a salty long straw-armed snake in through the opening. Then a second arm thrashed around, followed by 2 long stick legs. The 2 brothers were frozen in fear and could only look with horror as the headless scarecrow body rose up on its long stick legs and its long arms reached out of the darkness. Harold felt a cold sneerer straw claw close around his ankles and screamed as loud as he could. He begged his brother Josh to help him, but Josh was already running out of the bedroom, fleeing in terror. He ran down the hallway, crashed through the front door and out into the moonlight road. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, puffing and panting and screaming at the top of his voice as he passed his neighbour's house. He saw the old farmer standing at his gate in the moonlight. He could see the farmer just staring at him with a strange smile on his face. Josh kept running, his bare feet slapping against the rough gravel road. He glanced back over his shoulder and saw something that scared him to his very soul. He saw the scarecrow running along the road close behind him. It was gaining on him, coming closer and closer. And that wasn't all he saw. He noticed that the scarecrow had a brand new head and it looked like Harold. So, yeah.
The big toe. The big toe.
So this is an American one. Also known as the hairy toe or the skinny toe.
No touch.
So,
Okay.
so this is
The big toe. One day, a boy who was digging in his garden when he saw a big toe sticking out of the ground. He tried to pick it up, but it was stuck. It wouldn't budge, so he pulled as hard as he could and it came off in his hand. Then he heard something groan and scramble away. The boy took the big toe into the kitchen and showed it to his mum. That looks nice piece of meat, she said. I'll put it in the soup, we'll have it for dinner. That night, at the dinner table, the boy's father scooped the big toe out of the soup and chopped it up into 3 pieces. The father, the mother and the boy each ate a piece of theirs. Then they did the dishes, and when it got dark, they went to bed. The boy fell asleep almost at once, but in the middle of the night he was rudely awakened by a strange sound. He listened closely. It sounded like there was a voice coming from outside his window, and it was calling him. "Where is my big toe?" it groaned. When the boy heard that, he got very scared, but he thought, "It doesn't know where I am. It never will find me." Then he heard the voice once more, only now it was closer. "Where is my big toe?" it groaned. The boy pulled the blanket over his head and closed his eyes. "I'll go to sleep," he thought. "When I wake up, it'll be gone." But soon he heard the back door open and again he heard the voice. "Where is my big toe?" it groaned. Then the boy heard footsteps move through the kitchen, into the dining room, into the living room, into the front hall, then slowly climbing the stairs. Closer and closer they came. Soon they were in the upstairs hall. Now they were outside his door. "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. The boy watched in horror as his bedroom door opened, stalking with fear. He threw his bedclothes over his head and listened as the footsteps slowly moved through the dark towards his bed. Who's that? Banana.
Your washing machine. It's weirder than mine, as in the drum, and that's why she's getting rid of it. Otherwise, there would be nothing wrong with it.
Right. I'll just finish this off. Then they stopped. "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. "You've got it." The big toe has an alternate ending when the boy hears a voice calling for its toe. He finds a strange looking creature up inside the chimney. The boy is so frightened he can't move. He just stands there and stares at it. Finally he asked, "What you got such big eyes for?" The creature answered, "To look you through and through." "What you got such big claws for?" "To scratch up your gravel." What you got such a big mouth for?" "To swallow you whole." "What you got such sharp teeth for?" "To chomp your bones."
So that's the end of that one. Right, just give us a minute. So for that, like, sorry about that, we were just doing something, yeah, like, we're just, like, chilling, but I think we're just gonna end this here.